proceed.
All right,
Sorry
thank
for
you.
the interrupt.
Thank you. As I was saying, apologies for this delay, and may I just bring out a few points before we go into the Q&A. Yesterday, I presented a final report to the General Assembly, and it was by way of pointing out that a detailed report of 444 pages was issued earlier, and the final report was submitted to the Human Rights Council in Geneva in September. Just to quickly go over the ground, we concluded that recent events in Myanmar point to the gravest crimes under international law. Three areas were at the focus of the fact-finding mission's exercise activities: Kachin, Rakhine, and the Shan states. We did not have time and resources constrained prevented us from covering the other areas. And that presumably will be a task for the extended fact-finding mission. Now, more to the point, we concluded that in Rakhine states, the acts of the armed forces, the Tatmadaw, and other security forces fall within 4 of the 5 categories of genocidal acts. These are technicalities. We'll go into that as we go along. And we also concluded that the Rohingya may also be victims of crime of apartheid. We do not underestimate the complexity of the issues and the difficulty of the task. The Myanmar government's hardened positions are by far the greatest obstacle. Its continued denials, its attempts to shield itself under a cover of national sovereignty, and its dismissal of 444 pages of details about the facts and circumstances of recent human rights violations that point to the most serious crimes under international law. You may have followed the proceedings yesterday, where the representative from Myanmar, to the effect, did contest the report. This response only strengthens the case that the international community needs to act, and accountability cannot be expected from the national processes. I indicated that the fact-finding mission welcomes the fact that the Human Rights Council resolved to set up what they call an interim mechanism as a follow-up to the fact-finding mission's work. It's a stopgap measure, however, and it's the least that the international community can and must do immediately. Now, accountability, and I will reveal that message to the Security Council personally this afternoon. Accountability concerns not only the past, but it also concerns the future, and Myanmar is destined to repeat its cycles of violence and human rights violations unless there is an end to impunity. At the core of this crisis is a human rights catastrophe. We are aware that the Myanmar authorities say they want discussions with ethnic groups, with ethnic armed groups about federalism, the integration of ethnic armed groups and into the armed forces, and the sharing of natural resources. These are the 3 fundamental issues confronting confronting Myanmar. One is federalism. Second is the integration of the armed forces, of the ethnic groups, and the sharing of natural resources. No progress has been made on this, and therefore, unless progress is made, the situation will continue as it is, and it will eventually lead again to committing of atrocities in the country. I stress that atrocities continue to take place today, even until this very moment. The remaining Rohingya community continues to suffer the most severe restrictions, the most severe oppression, and nothing has fundamentally changed over the past one year, since August of 2017. It is an ongoing genocide that is taking place at the moment. Now, the Myanmar authorities finally have pleaded for more time, but under the current government, and indeed over 70 years since its independence, they have used that time to commit atrocities, cover them up, and evade all calls for accountability under the questionable claim that they are preserving the nation. They've asked evidence of human rights violations, as the envoy from Myanmar has done so yesterday. I will point that our full report provides that in abundance, and that facts are out now. And in determining how it will respond, Myanmar now stands at the crossroads. It can respond as a responsible member of the United Nations and take up the call for accountability, or it can continue on the same self-destructive road. The international community must do all it can help to take the right decision, and insofar as the fact-finding mission has been extended by the Human Rights Council, we have called to the Myanmar authorities to engage with the United Nations, to engage with the fact-finding mission, and as it stands today, it remains valid. I will not repeat, of course, what I've laid out in the UNGA yesterday on the Third Committee, and I'll stop here and we'll take your questions. Thank you.
Hi, Michelle Nichols with Reuters. On behalf of the UN Correspondents Association, thank you so much for doing this briefing today. I wanted to ask about, obviously there is the UN Security Council briefing this afternoon. Many diplomats have told us we're expecting a procedural vote called by China to try and stop this briefing. In your report, you have called for the Council to impose an arms embargo, targeted sanctions, but as we're likely to see this afternoon, the Council's quite divided on this issue. So what's your sort of message to them on that front? Have either of you met with the Chinese delegation while you've been here in New York, and what's your message to them? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we'll still on track to attend the Security Council session this afternoon. There have been no changes at this stage, at this point, and we expect that the fact-finding mission will be able to then attend that session and lay out the report to the to the Security Council. Our call would be fundamentally for the Security Council to act on the report, and that is to ensure that accountability is undertaken. We've laid out the options, either to the ICC, the referral to the ICC, or the setting up of an international tribunal. Now, of course, recommending paths ahead on accountability is what fact-finding missions do, and therefore these are what is being laid out there with these two options. Now, we're not, of course, foreclosing any other options that the Security Council might deliberate on, but we would be taking this one step at a time and allow the Council to deliberate on this, on the merits of the report, and let it take its course in a way that they feel would be reflective of the dynamics of the Council. Now, we have not met with China. I'm wondering why you're singling out China here. It could be any other country, but of course, we know that China has expressed its its concern about human rights being deliberated and discussed at the Security Council. But this would be unprecedented if the Security Council is able to resolve to act on this. Then henceforth, human rights will be an integral part of the Security Council deliberations, and that is, I think, an ultimate objective that needs to be attained. We have not met with the Chinese. We've always been reaching out to them. We've done so in the past, in the recent past, but not this time. Just before we go on, to add on this, I think what the Special Rapporteur has stated is of utmost importance. The fact-finding mission has found that one of the factors that had contributed to the committing of these atrocities was that democratic space has really narrowed down there in Myanmar, almost nil, and therefore pardoning these reporters would be one of the rare opportunities for the government to prove to the international community that it is trying to restore democratic space in Myanmar. And so we are all watching this, and we are expecting that the government of Myanmar do the right thing. Now, on a bit on the question by the gentleman just now on what the civilian government could do. You are referring, of course, to the State Council because she is emblematic of the civilian government. Two things. I think she should gradually refrain from this denying that these atrocities have happened. She has softened her stance in the recent period by saying that we could have probably done it differently or better, implying that she's cognizant now of these horrible events. Now, the State Council has not actually stated any objections to the contents of the report. She's only said that it might not be useful at the moment for Myanmar because it's undergoing a social change process and this might be disruptive. But nevertheless, I think the next step for her would be to say that acknowledging the accountability report, the report of the fact-finding mission, let's do something about it.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lee, a question for you from your initial statement that you had seen really no changes at all. I assume this would mean that you would oppose the return to Myanmar under the current circumstances of all of the Rohingya who have fled to Bangladesh. And what do you make of the comments that the government has said about all of the progress and things that they have been doing since last year? And Mr. Darusman, you talked about the state of the Rohingya who are left in Rakhine, and you used the words about an ongoing genocide. I wonder if you could explain or give some details about what you know about this ongoing genocide. Thank you.
To this day, there is a continuing outflow of the parts of the Rohingya community going out from Myanmar to Bangladesh. It goes up to perhaps into the thousands, actually. The remaining community there, the estimation is estimated to be around between 250 to 400,000. They're concentrated in the northern part of the state, and therefore this very link of a continuous flow connects the Rohingya community there with what happened to the people now residing in Cox's Bazar. Now, genocide involves at least, in the case of Myanmar, 4 of the 5 requirements of genocide were fulfilled. Killing, causing serious bodily harm, inflicting conditions designed to destroy the group, and imposing measures to prevent births. Except perhaps for the killing, the other requirements continue to hold. The community there continue to suffer from the most severe restrictions that amounts to destroying the group by inflicting conditions that would lead up to that objective. And therefore, in that sense, it is a continuing state of affairs that we've concluded having taken place there in Myanmar as of August 2017. In recent times, but it goes back to even further back to the early 2010s, where the gradual restrictions were then imposed on the community, which eventually led to the community having to defend itself. And that explains why perhaps it was the last straw on the camel's back, that they had to react the way the other ethnic armed groups in Myanmar had to react by taking recourse to measures that was intended to defend the interest of the community. So, of course, the other matter here with regard to genocide is that although these requirements were met, but the underlying factor, of course, is the genocidal intent, and we've been able to establish that genocidal intent is there, and that therefore it is warranted to bring the 6 generals that we've identified for prosecution in the ICC or in a judicial tribunal to be set up. This, of course, starts with the Commander-in-Chief, General Min Aung Hlaing.